Hi, I am Miguel Paredes and today I'm going to turn a bunch of polymer clay into an amazing and realistic Lego Shaak-Ti figure. When it comes to design alone, Shaak-Ti is one of my favorite Star Wars characters and I really like how Lego adapted her into minifigure form. It might be one of my favorite Lego minifigures, so without further ado, let's begin! I started by sculpting the skirt. Polymer clay is not cheap, so in order to save clay I grabbed a bunch of aluminum foil and with it I made the core of the skirt. Then I covered it in a layer of clay and once it had the shape I wanted, I started to give it some texture. And then my cat decided to take a nap on my desk, so yeah, she's gonna be there for a while. Okay, with the skirt done, it was time to sculpt the torso, which fortunately for me was pretty easy. The arms were pretty easy too, just a couple of fat sausages, and of course they are supposed to be covered by clothes, so I used this little tool to make some folds to simulate the fabric. And with that done, it was time to put them in place. Now, as much as I wanted to give her normal looking hands, this was the Lego version and I had to give her the iconic claw-like Lego hands. And to give them a semi-realistic look, I used a small needle that I found somewhere and gave them a bunch of wrinkles and skin folds. With the hands in place, I proceeded to work on the other details of her costume, starting with this thing. As you can see, it has these weird patterns, so I started there and my plan was this. First, I needed to draw them on a piece of paper, then I had to carefully cut them, then I needed to place them on a flat sheet of clay and give them a little bit of pressure so that their shapes would imprint onto the clay, and then all I had to do was to cut the rectangle. And once that thing was in place, I made the belt. Then I made these things, I don't know what they are. So I made another flat sheet of clay. This time I decided to use an old shirt to give it a nice fabric texture. I just needed to make sure to apply enough pressure so that the clay would get a nice and clean texture. If you're familiar with Lego Jedi minifigures, you'll know that the Jedi robes are represented as a cute little cape, so that's what I did next. With that, the body was pretty much finished, so it was time to work on the head. Since it was a bulky piece, I made a ball with aluminum foil for the core. As for the face, I just tried to be faithful to the Lego version. No nose, round eyes, and some meaty lips. At this point, I wanted to secure everything that I had sculpted, which means with the figure completely hardened, I decided to make her lecus and montrals. And if you don't know what that means, well, get ready because I'm about to throw you a random Star Wars fact. The lecus are the tentacle things hanging from her head, and the montrals are those horn-looking things. Okay, and that was the random Star Wars fact of the day. And remember, if you wanna get laid, throwing a random Star Wars fact is the way to go. 9 out of 10 panties get wet after a random Star Wars fact. So, you're welcome. With the lecus and montrals completely finished, it was time to give her a second bake. Then I decided to make her a cool tooth headdress. There. And for this I decided to use air dry clay. I forgot to sculpt it with polymer clay and I wasn't going to bake her a third time, so air dry clay was the way to go. With that, the sculpting was pretty much finished, which means it is time to move on to the painting. The body was pretty easy to paint. I just threw a bunch of brown tones at her, but her face, Lekus montrals, and a cool tooth, a cool tooth headdress weren't that easy. Especially her Lekus and montrals. It took a lot of time to paint those blue lines. But you know, slowly but surely everything started to come together for a nice and kinda terrifying Lego Shaak-Ti figure. Of course, I wasn't going to leave her without her lightsaber, which was the next and last step. Okay, and that's it. Shaak-Ti is one of my favorite Star Wars characters, even though she didn't do a lot in the whole saga, but as someone who grew up with the 2D Clone Wars micro series, I've always been a big fan of hers. She's so fucking cool in that. Go watch it if you haven't. It's amazing. I actually thought about sculpting her version from that series. I really didn't think I would end up doing a realistic Lego version, and then I saw North of the Border's realistic Lego Man video, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do that, but with Shaak-Ti. I've also thought about sculpting other Jedis and maybe start a small collection of realistic Lego Jedis. I think that Ki-Adi-Mundi or Yoda would look cool or disturbing maybe. Okay, that's it. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Okay, that's it. Bye.